Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this update we are going to check out XRP's price chart, and I do think some very interesting things are going on at the moment in that area. But before that, we are going to talk about something very important in XRP world, and honestly I don't really think this is going to really get a whole lot of attention, let's say even as much attention as it actually deserves. You see, XRP just got a major upgrade, and note this time we are not talking about maybe like another lawsuit update or maybe some court drama. No, this time it is actually something that could change how developers use the XRP ledger. So what are we talking about exactly? We are in this case talking about a new EVM-compatible sidechain that just went live, and yep, XRP can now run Ethereum style smart contracts. That, in my view, is a huge deal, and here is why. There are a lot of reasons, but I'm going to talk about a couple of them. Number one, you see, before this update specifically, XRP Ledger had its own system, which was very fast, very cheap for payments, but sort of kind of isolated. Developers couldn't simply just bring over their Ethereum decentralized application or use familiar tools like, for example, Remix or Hardhat. No, they had to learn a whole different way of building in order to interact with XRP Ledger. But with this sidechain, all of that changes. Now developers are able to use Solidity, which is, in case that you don't know it, the same language they already know from Ethereum, and build smart contracts on XRP Ledger without any major friction. This is like opening the gates to Ethereum's massive developer ecosystem. Reason number two for why this is actually important. Let's be honest, most developers are sort of kind of lazy, and I mean that in a good way. They want to build fast with tools that they already know. Now they can do that on XRP. And if you want to talk about migrating from Ethereum, now this is practically a copy-paste job. That means DeFi projects, DEX, NFT platforms, all that stuff can now come over very easily. And here is the kicker. Gas fees on this sidechain, they are still absolutely paid in XRP. So essentially, more activity equals more XRP demand. Very simple. Now, here is another very important reason for why this is important, this time from an investor point of view. And the question is, what does this mean if you are an actual holder of XRP? Let's talk numbers. Ethereum has nearly, I think it's about 6,000 active developers per month. XRP Ledger, on the other hand, it's actually about 2,800. If even 10% of Ethereum developers migrate, we are talking about 500 plus new developers building on XRP. And that is absolutely huge. More devs means more dApps. More dApps means more and more users. And more users is equal to more transactions. And all of those transactions, they will be using XRP as gas. This is the kind of flywheel effect that builds momentum big time. Now, let's keep it real. There are actually some trade-offs in here. Why? Because cross-chain bridges are notoriously risky. And you probably know it. If there is an exploit, it's actually usually through a bridge. Think of, for example, Ronin or Harmony. You get the idea. Also, liquidity could absolutely get split between the mainnet and sidechain. That might slow things down a bit if people are hesitant to move funds around. But here is where XRP design sort of kind of makes sense. You see, the main chain in here is very fast with cheap payments. The sidechain in this situation is to be used for smart contracts and DeFi. By keeping these absolutely separate, you get both speed and flexibility without really compromising too much on security side of stuff. So what's the conclusion in here? You see, this doesn't really mean that XRP is all of a sudden going to flip Ethereum or anything like that. Absolutely not. But here is the situation. It doesn't really have to. It just needs to grab a very small slice of Ethereum's developer pie, and that alone, in my view, could potentially shape XRP's place in the crypto world, from being just a payment token to becoming potentially and hopefully a legit smart contract platform. And now, more than ever, if you are holding XRP, the one metric that you should be tracking isn't necessarily the price. No, it's actually developer traction. And this is why I am actually so optimistic about the future. Why? Because in terms of fundamentals, we are having all these great news. And if you still somehow, I'm not really sure how, but if you're still somehow worried about the lawsuit, I think that is going to wrap up soon. And also when it comes to technical analysis and specifically Helios waves, I think we are having some beautiful, beautiful structures. But question, what is going to happen in the short term? Let's go on the live chart now and answer some questions. Okay, here we are on the live chart, and at the moment it seems like that XRP is absolutely following the bullish track. Why is that? If you remember, the last time that we talked about Ripple, we were around, I believe, these areas, and the idea was that most likely we are dealing in this phase with some sort of a correction structure, meaning after it's over, we are probably going to have yet another move on the downside. And in terms of the targets, we specifically talked about the higher band of this region, about, let's say, $2.7, and we said we can absolutely get there, and it's not going to be a bearish sign by any means. Okay, it's very, very important to understand that. And what happened? Pretty much that scenario. Now, question, does this mean at the moment I should flip 100% bullish in XRP and call this point our final low with absolute certainty? The answer is no. Why? Couple of reasons. Number one, there is no certainty in any market at any given moment. We are only talking about different scenarios and what is actually possible. And number two, based on the signs that I see in here, we are on the bullish track. That's fair, but the signs themselves are not really enough, at least right now. Why do I say that? You see, if you want to say we're going to have our final low around here, then okay, what are we going to have off of the lowest low in terms of Helios waves? You know the answer, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. This specific example is called an impulse. Rules for it are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4 and in any kind of 5 wave. Wave 3 is not allowed to be the smallest wave, and for our sub waves, 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5. Let's change the colors. Okay. And for wave 2 and 4, we can have many, many different possibilities. Doesn't really matter. Let's say, yeah, okay, sure. An A, B, C, D, E, a triangle into 4, and a WXY into wave 2. And do we have something like this in XRP in the short term or not? The answer is maybe yes. Let's go on 5-minute time frame. And by the way, in my own time, I rarely go on such lower time frames, but you know, this is for the sake of educational purposes, so I'm thinking it's fine. Okay. What is going on in here? First things first, this seems to be quite a decently strong move on the upside when you compare it to this move down. Why do I say that? Because let's measure this move up timing wise. How long did it take for us to have this thing? About 560-70 candlesticks. On the other hand, in about 500 and maybe, yes, it's actually around 650 candlesticks, we managed to have this move up to about the recent high. So in XRP, it seems like that we are actually having quite a good move on the upside. And also in terms of Helios waves, I do think this can be 5 up probably to about this point into a wave 1, followed by a correction for wave 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up into wave 3, correction for 4, another move on the upside into wave 5, which is a good sign suggesting the low is in. However, let me ask you a question. If you want to go even according to the most bullish count, what is going to happen after a 5 wave on the upside? You know the answer. We are going to have a move down, but the key is not necessarily the move itself. No, the key is the shape of that move. In case that we see a very slow move down, meaning overall some sort of a correction structure, and also in case that we are in this phase able to identify complete subwaves for a correction, then okay, right in here can be a beautiful long opportunity for the short term, because on a higher degree, at that point, you are going to see me argue that in XRP, we are having a wave 1, correction for wave 2, and what's next? Yep, big move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. If I see this, okay, at that point, I'm going to be able to be bullish with like much more confidence. So for now, in XRP, I'm really counting on yet maybe another small move up, but then a very slow move on the downside, which is going to take more time than this move up. It's very important to understand that if you want to be optimistic and call this point the low of our correction. Also, let's go around here. In terms of the trends, in a downtrend, we are having what? A series of lower highs and lower lows, and the moment that we get a move up, and in that move we managed to take the previous major pivot high, at that point we are sort of kind of able to be bullish and say maybe the trend has changed, and we are going to have from these areas a series of higher highs and high lows, meaning generally a very decent uptrend. And in XRP, let's go on 15-minute chart. Okay, so what are we having? These are a series of lower highs and lower lows. And where is the previous major pivot high? I'm actually going to argue it's up here about $3.3. So if you want to be bullish with much more confidence, just wait a little bit more and see after a consolidation pattern another move up in order to take this important high, which will be a fantastic sign. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in XRP's price chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.